Let's face it, writing can be a chore. It can be something that is not very fun, something we have to do, and if you're like me, you don't like to have things that you have to do. Today, I was working on a little thing I had to write for our team. Rachel, Jan, and I have a wonderful team that help us tremendously, and I had to write this it was just a couple of pages, and I was thinking it was kind of a chore, and what I did finally was I applied what I learned about writing books to writing shorter pieces, and it worked like a charm. I'm going to tell you all about it. Stay tuned. Please click that subscribe button and ring that little bell, and you will be notified of all my videos that come out. What I think is the best part of what I'm going to show you and tell you about right now is that it will make your writing more fun, it'll make the process more enjoyable, and it will also make your writing more effective. I'm Dada Groover. I am an award-winning speaker and author, and I'm also a founder of the Awaken School. We help people become world changers, and yeah, I love that work. I really do. I wasn't even planning to say that again, but I did. So there. So as far as the writing goes and making it more fun, there's something that I call layering. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. It seems a little simplistic on the surface, but there's actually quite a bit more to it. So I'm going to talk about it from the point of view of someone writing a book. And obviously that's not the only way to write. And like I said before, you can also apply this to shorter works. So a lot of times when people write, there's two main camps of writers of longer works. And those are the plotters and the pantsers. And that's P-A-N-T-S-E-R-S. I don't think it's an actual English word, but it's used a lot in the writing world. And a pantser means someone who writes by the seat of her pants or the seat of his pants. A plotter is one who plots out the whole thing, does a outline and so on. So I'm not going to get into the advantages and disadvantages of each. They're both great in my opinion, and a lot of famous, highly successful writers are in both camps. Like they might be in one camp, they might be in another camp. In any case, the reason I'm bringing this up is because whichever way you get to your first draft, right, that's where I'm going to start talking about layering. And again, it can also apply to shorter work. So layering works like this. What a lot of people do is they have their first draft, and they may, well, some people will actually, before they even finish the first draft, they'll perfect that first paragraph, then they'll perfect the second paragraph, or the first chapter, or the second chapter. So they're going over it in blocks, and they're trying to get to a certain point before they move on. I believe this is a mistake for a couple of reasons. For one thing, it means it is not going to be as fun. The whole process will not be as enjoyable. And for another thing, it can be a huge waste of time. So typically what will happen is somebody will, for example, they'll write first chapter, go all the way through it, get all the dialogue there, the scene is all really clear, there's lots of description, awesome things. They do the same thing with the second chapter and the third chapter. They get to the fourth chapter and they get an idea for that fourth chapter. It's like, oh, I could do this, but then I had to go back and change that third chapter, and they're not willing to do it. So it might be something that would really enhance their work. It might make that book a lot better, but they don't want to go back and do it because they have to redo all that work, right? So they leave the idea out, or they adapt the fourth chapter that I'm talking about in such a way that it's just different. It's not needed. It's not necessary. Like they make some kind of subtle change there. And what I believe that is frequently to the detriment of the work. So the layering method means you start with a rough draft. And again, it could come from whether you're a planter or a planter, whether you're a plotter or a pantser. It doesn't matter. So you have this first draft, and then you do what I call a layer. Like you don't try to get everything right in it. You just do the first overview of it. and it's not something that's going to be ready. It's not even going to be close to being ready. It's not even close to what I would call a second draft. It's just you get farther on it, and you go through the whole work, and then you go through the whole work again, and you go through the whole work again. And so each one of those things I call a layer. And what happens is it makes your writing so much more enjoyable and so much more fun, especially if you don't put huge time restraints on yourself. In other words, thinking like, I've got to get this many words done by this amount of time. Now, I know, okay, I hear some people saying, wait a minute, that works for me. Great. If it works for you, awesome. You know, like if you enjoy coming up with a certain number of words, I do not. For me, I have found it much more enjoyable to just, I do my layers. I go through and I just move along and I just want to get it better. You know, it doesn't have to be profoundly better. Now, when I do that, I might work on one chapter for hours. I might work on one paragraph for hours. I might take a lot of time to choose an alternate word or an alternate phrasing. And I don't put the restriction on myself. And yeah, I do work with deadlines sometimes. But what I have found is this makes the process not only more enjoyable, it makes it more effective. So the paper I had to write today for our team, you know, I say I had, it was some important company stuff, you know, with our creative work. And, you know, I had to let the team know about it. And I just went through the whole thing and just in a very, very rough draft, and then just made it a little better. And when I say better, I look for ways at how is this going to be taken? How is it going to be received? You know, it turned out to be, it was a one-page document. It was not a big deal. And yeah, I could have just sat down and written the whole thing, chored it out, but I believe it would not be as effective. Do you ever chore stuff out and like think like, oh, I don't like this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to just get through it. This layering method completely eliminates the have to of it. It just makes it a lot more fun. My book, The Reluctant Visionary, right, that I'm working on still. I'm going to be sending it out to agents later on this month. I just reprinted this. I reprinted it. It really was a reprint, wasn't it? I reprinted it with my latest version. So this here is version number 4 since I retitled it. So I retitled it, about a month ago. So this is the 4th version. And it's you know, there are changes. There are things that are happening with it. I'm not trying to get it perfect the first time through. Every time I go through, I want it to be better. I want it to be more complete. And it's so much more enjoyable. And you could say, well, that's the way you work, Dada. And yes, it definitely is. But I've coached a lot of writers and had them try that. I've never had anyone come back and say, yeah, I really hate the layering method. It takes a lot of pressure off you, and it just makes it more fun. And like I said before, it does make it more effective. Now, applying this to a book, right? So even if you're not writing a book, and yes, do I believe everyone should write a book? I do. I really do. But, you know, without getting into that at the moment, just looking at it from that perspective, like even if you're just looking to make your email more effective or whatever it is, with a book, again, so starting from that first draft, and I am what you would call a pantser. Like my first draft, I try to be in flow. I'll do the first draft of my book in 4 days. I'm focusing on nothing else in that time, eating, sleeping, the basics, but only the very basics. And we do workshops like that where we have people sit down, they do the first draft of their book, which is great. You know, it works well for just about everybody. Not every single person, but it works well for, I would say, 98% of the people that try it. And so you come out with this first draft. So from that first draft, I will go through, and again, I don't put a limit Like I could work on something for a while, but generally I'll just go through with a very light touch. And just so, yeah, this is fun. Okay, yeah, I'm going to make this dialogue happen and this discussion happen. And I haven't invested too much in the sense that I get to a later chapter and I want to put something else in, because that's how writing works. We get ideas, we get inspiration, and we have that, we might have an idea that fits. You know, when you get to know your characters, you're understanding the setting, you're feeling the setting, then sometimes you want to add things later on. And what I do recommend is things like grammar, sentence structure, paragraphs, all these kind of things all suggest that that goes in a later layer. And the reason for that is, again, it's work to do those things. And, you know, you're not as invested in it's like, okay, this part's all right, I can't change it. And I've done that. I've done that with pieces where I've gone through several layers with the whole work, and I'll get an inspiration and I want to add something. And if I add this, I've got to take some of this out. And it's like, okay, well, there's some wasted work. I don't believe any of it's wasted work. It's just work that I'm not going to use in that piece, right? In that book or in that paper or whatever it is. And my request to you is to leave yourself open to make those kind of changes. And I believe that's how that you and that's how we're going to do our best work. That we're open to doing whatever it takes to make that our best, right? Whether, on the other hand, some people might say, oh no, I really love this piece and I've done that. I hate it. I really do hate it, right? Like I've done that where I have a piece that I really like, I really enjoy, I think it's well written, I think it works. I've had beta readers read it and they loved it, but it doesn't serve the book. And so I will take it out. So the bottom line is whatever serves the book and whatever I want to say with that book and whatever will make it more readable, more enjoyable, give people a bigger takeaway from it, I'm going to do that. And it's not going to be just based on what I am working on. So that's a little caveat to what I'm saying. With the layering, it's not going to completely prevent that, but it mostly prevents that. And like I say, be open to it. Be open to making a major change if it is for the better. Watch out for there's probably a name for it. It's the perfectionist artist syndrome, let's call it right now, which means the artist, whether it's a writer, a painter, a musician, they just have to, make it better and a little better and a little better when really it's past its due date. It needs to be released. It needs to be published. It needs to be presented. It needs to be recorded, whatever it is, depending on the form of art. And a lot of people will just keep, they'll keep picking at it and picking at it and picking at it. And they might be making it incrementally better and they might not be. Sometimes people make it worse when they try to do that. But this layering method is very effective. I highly recommend you try it and let me know. Let me know. I'd love to know what you think about this video in the comments below. Please feel free to click that subscribe button, ring that little bell, and you will be notified of any new videos coming out. Plus, it'll really encourage me a lot. This has been Dada Groover, and I enjoy doing this. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Take care.